Hello and welcome back. It's been a while since we spent any time looking over my 2012 Seagull S12 Coastline, so today we're going to restring, clean up, check the saddle, nut, all the tuning heads, the truss rod, clean the fretboard, and don't forget to check the strap peg. Many a loose strap pegs have made many a bad days for many a people. So that's what we're going to do today. Let's get to it. So the first thing we're going to check over is the action and the actual setup of the guitar. I've already looked down the neck and it is very, very straight. There's just a slight bit of bow to it. Rather flat overall. Now the action I have set really, really low. I have carpal tunnel, so I want the strings very close to the fretboard. As a matter of fact, the high E is about 1.5, 1.5 millimeters. And the high E, I think it's below 1.25 millimeters. So we have a very, very low action. And that's because I don't strum, I finger pick. So the oscillation isn't high enough to really buzz on the frets that much. And the other thing is, when the action is that low, when you push down the string, you are literally shortening the length of the note. So you're gonna have a little bit, it should go a little sharp. And if it has barely any movement in it to get to the fret, well then you're not going to go sharp. It's going to stay a truer tone. And that's the way I like to have my guitar set up. So we don't have anything to do that way. The truss rod's good and the action's good. Now you always check the truss rod in action on your old strings, because if it was out, what we would have to do is adjust, well, loosen all the strings, adjust, tighten all the strings and tune it up and see how it sits. That's best to do on old strings, because if you're loosening and tightening them about 3 or 4 times, there's a good chance you might break your G string. So anyways, always do the setup on the old strings. That'll just save you time in the long run and make it so you don't take a chance at breaking a brand new string. So now we're going to loosen the strings. Now we're removing the strings, so it doesn't matter as much. We've done our setup now. The other thing is, a lot of people will cut the strings here and then make extra garbage. Don't do that. Just take all the strings off in one piece. Makes them easier to recycle. Most of your guitar shops will take back old strings for recycle. So now another neat thing about these winders is there's a little groove right in there. That will go underneath your pegs and help them to come up. Caution with this, I've heard people damaging their guitar doing it. I've never have, but you can also help yourself with a bit of push from the back. And was never seen again. When pulling your pins, a lot of people want to keep them in the same spot. That's fine if they want to. I just want to keep them. The big thing is just to keep a lot of caution when you're plucking your pegs. Everybody wants a good pegging. Okay, now you take all your strings at once. Count them out. Make sure you got 2 red, 2 gold, 2 black, 2 green, 2 purple, 2 silver. 12. Take them all in a row, make a loop, bring it up through the middle, make all of them do it, maybe twice. And then you just make a good coil. And there you have strings for recycle. Okay, take a look at the saddle. Keep an eye on which way you fill it out. You'll notice that one end of it is bent over a little more than the rest. The short end is for the skinny strings. We'll keep that in mind. Time for cleanup? No. First thing we're going to do is go over with our 10mm deep socket. Now to tighten down the machine heads, what you want to use is a 10mm deep socket. You want a deep socket because there's a spindle that comes up through, and if you have just a regular depth socket, it won't fit right. So I've already gone over these and know that they're all tight, but 10mm deep socket. Now when we clean the guitar, you use a fresh cloth, soft cloth if you got that, or I just use t-shirt material. Make sure you cut all the seams and hems off of it, because the nylon string they use for hems and seams is really tough and could scratch the finish depending on the finish you have. So the top is cedar and it's very soft wood, and there's a very light satin finish on the guitars. Seagull do this because they want the most resonance that they can possibly get. Cedar is a very resonant soft wood, and when you put a very light satin finish on it, it doesn't protect it as much from the banging, so they are easily marked. Let's go over the basic layout of the guitar. What we do have is a solid cedar top. Sides and back are laminated wild cherry. Neck is silver maple. Bridge and fretboard are, of course, rosewood. Has a 1.8 width nut and neck. And of course it has the distinctive arrowhead type neck on it. That is so that the strings come fairly in straight lines, keeps it from having to be too retuned all the time. It's just thought like that make this guitar as good as it is. Now, changing the strings means you have access to a lot of things that you don't when you have the strings on it. So, like the fretboard, which makes it a lot easier to clean, the other thing we're going to take a look at is the frets themselves. Now, there are some notches in here. Do I mess with it? Let's take our tool here and see how the frets are for rock. Now the frets up in here don't really matter that much because hardly anybody ever really plays up in there unless you got a cutaway. So I'm going to just concern myself from here down. So this one could come down a bit. Get out the fret file, double check this again. And what you want to do is do this very slowly. You check for rock. If you have any rock, you know it's the one in the middle. And that one just has to come down a little bit. So take about 3 or 4 slides and then tuck it again. Okay, so I've gone over the whole guitar and it's pretty well flat. I'm just going to double check it here in a second. But what you want to do is feel for the rock, and then once you know where the rock is, if it's the one in the middle of the 3 that you're checking, just give it about 3 or 4 scrapes and check it again with your thing. And remember, if you have like an electric guitar or if you have a pickup in your guitar, you are creating little shards of metal. And you do not want to get any of those metal shards into your electronics. So be careful. That's why you tape off everything on top of not wanting to scratch the fretboard. Okay, frets are level. They just needed a little touch, and I don't mind doing a little touch every so often, as long as it does what it's supposed to do. Okay, now one more cleaning of the fretboard. And make sure that we get up all the little metal shards from filing. So now we put away the cleaner, we get a fresh, clean rag for the fretboard oil. Not a paid promotion. And we're going to apply liberally to the fretboard. Because we want it to seep in as much as possible. Usually don't have to worry too much about way up in here, but it's nice to get a full coverage on. Now we're going to let that soak in for a bit. You can tell that it's really soaking into the top too. way up at the end only needs the one quick appliance, so we can get it finished off, and then we have something to compare the rest of the fretboard to as we get cleaning up in the areas that get more use. Seems the first 4 frets are the ones that need it the most. And so, time for a break. Gonna go double check my coffee and let that seep in. Maybe a cucumber, onions, carrots, hot peppers, bell peppers, and then we go get my phone to check inside the gut hole. Be right back. Now we're going to do the interior inspection. Going to take a light, put it down in the sound hole, put it in a spot where it will light up the end. So now let's take a look at this video and see what it looks like. Hello. Hello. That wasn't on all that time. Yeah. Damn it. Yeah. Okay. So now let's record. Okay, let's check it out. And also the bridge. It needs a real good soaking because it is looking dry. There's a lot of wood. Get that soaked. See, I'm trying to get the bridge but not the faceplate. Okay, I should also be taking it off of the fretboard now. It's been on there for a good while. Might have shown you some of me taking pictures in the inside. I've never seen inside that well before, so that was interesting. She's gonna be beautiful. There is There's really nothing like the sound of a 12-string guitar. Anyway, it is time to start getting the strings ready. And I already got the strings ready. Not a promotion, blah blah blah. I use them because I like them. And what are they? These are 0.010 to 0.47 light gauge. As light as I can find. If I could find lighter gauge ones, I'd probably use them, but I always just go for the lightest ones that are there. And scissors. Alright. As usual, they come in 6 sets. It's rather obvious which are first, but color coded on here saying that my first ones are gold. That is my biggie. Biggie! Always hold away from yourself when you're letting these loose. Okay. Now, everybody always asks, what goes first? You do the octave string first. It's no, yes. You can always double check by the nut. When you put the nut back up, you can tell which is the small and which one's not. Go small, big, small, big, small, big. Alright, so small. The string has a spool on it that you can see through. You want the thing to roll this way down into the hole. There's a groove in your peg. It goes here to guide the string in. Once you get down so far, that's got to go this way. So you want the roller to go in that way. You want the pin to go in this way with the string up through the groove. When it goes down in, it's going to go down in so far, and then the pin's going to go and the string's going to stay. That's what you want it to do once it's down in there. Okay. Rolling down in, pin, groove, push down so far, and then the string holds still and the peg goes down. That's what you want. When you get up to this end, you want to go, when you get up to this end, you just put it in the wrong stinking hole. I'm gonna leave that in to show you how stupid I am. Oh no, I put in the wrong hole. Yeah. Okay, so you want the pin to go in deep and the string stays tight. Once you get up to this end, you want to go past the second spindle, or about 2 inches up or so, and cut it there. this is the one you want to go on. This is where you cut it, up above there. So you go past the second spindle up to there and cut. All the while holding on to both sides so that you don't lose it. Okay, keep the tail in a good spot because you're going to have to dispose of it later. This is a piece of onion. I'm hungry. Okay, string goes through the hole. Leave just a little bit, leaving sticking out. Just leave a little bit sticking out, not much, and crank it to the proper side. And wind. Making sure that the wire always rolls down the spindle into the head of the guitar. I just leave the nut loose because all the pressure of the strings is enough to hold it in place once it gets to that point. String number 2, peg number 2. Turn off your phone. Okay, so the roller goes down in, groove to the string. Goes down so far and then the string stops going in, but the peg does keep going in. That's what you want. Now, the spacing of these strings will be done by the pegs. Okay, up past the second spindle, cut, holding both sides so it doesn't spring. And put aside. Through the hole of the spindle with just a little bit of tail sticking out. And crank. Get your winder. Making sure the wire always winds down into the headstock. Read your screen. Yellow, red. Okay, loosen them, hold them away. The skinny of the two goes first. Fresh peg. Upper hole. Roller down, pin goes, string doesn't. Up past the second. Hold and cut. Hold and cut. Hold and cut. And it's usually always a good thing to double check. Winders are a wonderful thing. How I went so many years without one, I don't know. People don't get 12 strings because it takes so long to restring them. I'll take the time to do it. Roller, hole, pin, slides, string, cut. Pin, roller, pin, slide, measure, cut. Tail, crank, wind. Drop. First, you just want to get them on there. Don't tighten them down too much because you're going to want to space all the strings properly. Make sure that they're where they're supposed to be. Everything's in line. Green, green. Okay. Roller, pin, groove, wire, push, push, string stops. Push, pin, bend over, string, cut. Okay, purple. We're getting into it, boys and girls. Now the last two sets are the exact same thickness. So you don't have to look for a thin one and a thick one. Just do it. Okay, pin, roller, groove, push, stop, slide, plant, pull, measure, cut. When you get up into this end, you got to start double checking your cuts, because it's sometimes hard to tell what spindles have strings on and which ones don't. So measure twice. Try to leave as little tail sticking through as possible so you don't poke yourself later. These are the ones we've been looking for, people. What makes 12 string restringing a little more enjoyable, or a little less daunting, no, I dropped another pin somewhere. You get Scoob. Roller, pin, grooves, push, slide, bend, measure, 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 cut. No. You only ever want to make the bend once, because it never goes good after that. And it's worth having a one extra small itty bitty garbage piece, which you have to be very careful not to lose. Okay, it goes right now. So it's when you get up into this area, you want to be very careful about making the cranks. Me. Where did the other string go? There it is. They're hard to see when they get this small. Now, let's go find the last pin. Where did it go? Pin, where are you? Oh, there we are. Okay. hiding in plain sight. Roller, pin, grooves, push, slide, bend, measure, 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 cut. Okay, so now we have the strings all on it. We want to go around and make sure all the pegs are planted fairly solid. And you want to look at them again after you start bringing it to tune. Keep an eye on them. There was one that was a little pop jet. That one was a little pop jet. Two of them. Now, try and get your strings right to the side of your peg, because the front peg is what determines the width between the strings. Okay. Before we get too tight, we want to make sure that the nut is flush. Because it is a floating nut. But as I say, once the pressure of the strings get on it, it will hold it in place. Not to worry. I've never had it come out of place once I get it set. And if you find that it's too close to one side, you can adjust it. Pretty good. Measure. Spacing seems pretty good. Now start by pulling on them a bit and helping them settle. Take up any slack that's on them. Taking them in pairs. It'll be easier not to break one that way. Okay, then we make sure that the spacing up here is proper, because you will be able to adjust it a bit before you get it tightened down. Those two are a bit far apart. A lot of them though will generally space to the half width of the pin, because that's how it goes around the side. The close pins, the string comes straight out. The back pins have come out this way and around this peg. But that keeps the distance between the strings constant. Now we bring her up to tune. This has got to be the most boring part for you guys. Where's the pause button? One of the other things that really sucks about stringing your guitars is it takes so long to stretch these strings and get them to seat properly. You can tune it like 5, 6, 7 times easily before it will take a tune and keep a tune. And then it takes 3 more times after you think you have it. Okay, tune time. now we got to refund these a few more times. But it's really worth it in the end. And so there we have it. She's all back in shape, ready for springtime. Just don't forget to double check the strap pin, because it's a real drag when that comes off. Ask me how I know. I'm going to go over it with a final soft buffing. And I can tell you that I will never let this one go. There's a belly on it. Oh well. Well, there is a bit of a belly on this thing, but not much yet. As I say, I've got it filed right down. I've got the action really, really low. Let's check it one more time before we go. Action at the 12th. That's 1.25. So the action's sitting at about 1.25. That is extremely low, but I'm going to leave it. Give it a couple of days, see if the head pulls up. If not, then I loosen the truss rod 1/8 of a turn. So that's it. This is my 2012 S12 Coastline left-hander. I love this thing. As I say, the action's way too low, but I'm going to give it a couple of days, see if maybe the neck settles in a bit more and gives me a little more clearance. If not, I might have to loosen the truss rod about 1/8 of a turn. You don't want to make a big change on your truss rod adjustments. Double check the strings, make sure they're good, good, good. Okay, thanks for watching. See you next time.